red tape sa gobyerno. Mula sa lumang RA 94
concerning the latest issuance made by the authority, ARTA Memorandum Circular number 2022-02, or the Zero Backlog Program. My name is Nancy Fernandez from the authority's Doing Business Division, and I will be your host for today's orientation. Next slide, please. For purposes of documentation, this orientation will be recorded. Should you wish to learn more about the privacy policy of the authority, you may access it on the link that is shown on your screens.
Panahon na para maputol ang red tape sa gobyerno mula sa lumang RA 9485. Ito na ang mas malawak na RA 11032. Mapapabilis na ang lahat ng serbisyo ng gobyerno. Ito na ang magpapaasenso sa mahal nating bayan. Ito ang ARTA, Anti-Red Tape Authority.
Pangarap ng batas na ito na maalis na ang red tape at korupsyon upang tuluyan ng mapabilis ang mga proseso ng gobyerno. Upang makamit ito, may dalawang landas na sabay na tatahaki ng ARTA. Nandito ang empowerment at enforcement. Una ay ang empowerment, kung saan bibigyan ng tulong at kapasidad ang mga ahensya ng gobyerno para mas streamline, ma-re-engineer at maiangat nila ang kalidad ng kanilang serbisyo. Tulad ng regulatory impact assessment, kung saan ang mga proposed na proseso ay sinisiguradong may progressive na effect. At ang regulatory management system para patuloy na maging effective, productive at efficient ang proseso ng mga ahensya sa pamamagitan ng pagsigurado na ang lahat ng ating mga regulasyon, batas at polisiya ay dumaan sa masusing pag-aaral. Pangalawa ay ang enforcement, kung saan ang mga ahensya na lalabag sa batas ng ARTA ay papatawan ng naaayon na kaparusahan. Guided by these two pillars, our gift of productivity and efficiency to the people will be just a step away. Approve ka, ARTA! Pangarap ng batas na
The Philippine Good Regulatory Principles, or PGRP, are a set of principles outlining good regulatory practices. Government agencies can align their regulatory processes and activities using the PGRP. We aim to have regulators that are able to create and adopt regulations that do not add undue regulatory burden to the transacting public. The Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, in accordance with its mandates as prescribed under Republic Act 11032, will promote these principles so that businesses and regulated entities understand what they can expect from regulators. Let's learn the principles together. Principle 1. Clarity. Regulators should provide clear rationale, objectives, goals, institutional frameworks, and support mechanisms in the regulations they issue. Principle 2. Legal and empirical basis. Regulators should ensure that all regulations come from sound legal and empirical basis which validate new or continuing government intervention. Principle 3. Cost versus benefit. Regulators should issue regulations that benefit society, justify costs, reduce unintended effects, and minimize negative impact to the economy, society, and the environment. Meanwhile, in Principle 4, Assessment, regulators should assess and consider all policy options, including non-regulatory interventions, through regulatory impact assessment. Principle 5, Engagement. Regulators should practice and sustain effective and inclusive stakeholder engagement. Principle 6. Coherence. Regulators should align regulations with existing regulations, ensuring consistency and congruence. Then we have Principle 7. Whole of government. Regulators across all levels should cooperate, collaborate, and support regulatory capacity development initiatives. Of course, we can't forget Principle 8. Continuous evaluation. Regulators should review and evaluate regulations to determine continued relevance, efficiency, and effectiveness. In Principle 9, competition. Regulators must ensure that regulations are compatible with competition and with principles on trade and investment facilitation on both domestic and international levels. Last but not the least, Principle 10, risk management. Regulators should undertake risk management in drafting and implementing regulations. Through these 10 principles, we envision an efficient Philippine government that provides world-class service to the Filipino people. Together, we can create that bright future. For more information, you may visit the ARTA website at arta.gov.ph and download the Philippine Good Regulatory Principles.
Alam niyo ba, ang government service ay simple lang na 3, 7, 20. 3 days sa mga simpleng request, 7 days sa mga komplikado, at 20 days para sa mga nangangailangan ng teknikal na pagsusuri. 3, 7, 20. Yan ang ARTA, walang arte. At pag lumagpas sa takdang panahon, ibig sabihin, approve na yon.
All right, we have some quick house rules for everyone who is here with us on Zoom. So again, please ensure to include your organization beside your name, and the microphones of all participants in this Zoom call shall be muted during the meeting so as not to disturb the presentations. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the discussions will be moderated to guide the conversation. Please use the raise hand button so that the moderator can acknowledge you to speak. You may also use the chat box below for written questions. On the other hand, for those who are with us, who are watching live on our official Facebook page of the authority, you may leave your comments on the comment section below, and the organizing team will be able to consolidate all these questions during the open forum. So should you have any concerns or queries, you may send a private message to the members of the organizing team here in the authority. Okay. So to start off the orientation, we have a quick invocation po. Ito. Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem. All right, so we would like to thank everyone who are here with us in the Zoom call, as well as those who are watching on our Facebook Live, as well as on our official YouTube channel. This orientation, just for everyone to have a quick idea, is due to the latest issuance the authority has issued in relation to the Zero Backlog program. So we will be talking about more about what this latest issuance is all about, how to use the annexes included in this latest issuance, and any questions that you may have in relation to this program. So to start off, the program, as well as to acknowledge everyone who are here with us. May we call on Undersecretary Eduardo Bringas, the Deputy Director General for Legal of the Anti-Red Tape Authority. DDG Bringas, you have the virtual floor po. Thank you.
Secretary Jeremiah Belica, our Director General, Undersecretary Carlos Enquita, our Deputy Director General for Admin and Finance and Chief of Staff, and of course, Deputy Director General, Undersecretary Ernesto Perez, our DDG for Operations, the representatives of the various LGUs and SUCs, fellow workers in government, and guests, good morning. I'm supposed to deliver the welcome and opening remarks for the Memorandum Circular on Zero Backlog Report. And in ARTA, we are fond of doing streamlining. So to streamline my message, let me open with this remark. Welcome. Kidding aside, let me begin with this premise. Cuentas claras, preservar amistad. When we are clear on the subject matter and discussion at the outset, then we preserve the friendship. In this regard, we preserve the good relationship between and among government agencies. So, for this purpose, since we are discussing about zero backlog, let me first define what red tape is. Red tape is defined under Section 10, Section 4K of RA 11032 as any regulation, rule, or administrative procedure or system that is ineffective or detrimental in achieving the intended objectives, and as a result provides slow, suboptimal, and undesirable social outcome. Under Section 9, letter B of RA 11032, it provides for the 3720 rule, meaning for simple transactions, it must be done within 3 working days. For complex transactions, it must be done within 7 working days. And for highly technical transaction must be done within 20 working days. Backlog therefore means that the service that goes beyond the 3720 rule in general uh, uh, is deemed already a backlog. Conversely, zero backlog is the delivery of services within the 3720 rule. I said in general because you can provide in your citizens charter either a shorter period or there are so we have 8 LGUs here. For example, certain other periods provided for, like for the Sangguniang, it provides for a 45 days, and extendable for another 30 days. The consequence of non-compliance with the zero backlog policy is the provision of Section 10 of RA 11032, and that is the either automatic approval, extension, or renewal, and that is by operation of law. ARTA simply determines whether the requirements and the prerequisites are attendant and declares the application or request is complete. The approval, extension, and or renewal is automatic by operation of law. In addition, any government official or employee may be subject to administrative complaint for the first offense, and administrative and criminal offense for the second offense. And the second offense is very harsh because administratively we'll be losing all the benefits, and you are prevented from going back to public service and being a public servant, and also at the same time you suffer the consequence of imprisonment. With this clarification, let me end with these words. If taxes are the lifeblood of the nation, ARTA is the lifeblood of the bureaucracy. So let us work together and make sure that we have a zero backlog in the delivery of our government services. And with this, I hope and pray that we'll be able to guide you towards this end. Thank you and good morning.
All right. Thank you very much, DDG Bringas, for that very informative and very detailed explanation of the importance of not having any backlogs in your respective local government units and state universities and colleges. You also mentioned actually the consequences of non-compliance as pursuant to RA 11032. With that, let us continue this momentum of conversations regarding backlogs and ease of doing business and providing government service delivery with a special message provided by the Director General of the Anti-Red Tape Authority, Secretary Jeremiah B. Belica. This is actually a video special message. Please check the screens that is shown to you right now. Thank you.
Greetings to all of the participants in this webinar regarding the Zero Backlog Policy. As we approach the end of the term of the President, we do believe that we have to increase the momentum by which we are going in our fight against red tape. And one of the things that we can do to achieve that purpose is to enact and to come up and to enforce policies that would certainly benefit the Filipino people across the different administrations to come. One of which is this Zero Backlog Policy. Ang Zero Backlog Policy po ay nasasaad sa batas pong ipinasa na Republic Act 11032 or ang Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act. It also calls for all government agencies and head of the agencies to ensure the implementation of a Zero Backlog program. A backlog simply means transactions that remains to be enacted upon which are beyond already the processing time as prescribed in the Citizens Charter. Let us not forget that in the new law of the new ARTA law, all transactions were given a prescribed processing time of 3 days, 7 days, and 20 working days. Ang transaksyon po na hindi po na-aksyonan, sa kabila na ito'y kumpleto na, ay considered to be automatically approved by operation of law. Let us remember that the law does not require that all government applications or applications filed in the government offices should be automatically approved. But nonetheless, what the law requires is that all transactions and applications should be acted upon within a prescribed processing time. Whether it is denied or it is approved, but nonetheless, it has to be acted upon. The President has always been very clear since the beginning of his term that he wants a more comfortable and convenient life for the Filipino people. Ayaw po niya na ang tao daw ay namamatay sa kakapila at sa linya. Bagkus ang bawat isa po sa atin sa gobyerno ay kinakailangan magpatuloy na magserbisyo ng buong tapang at buong sinseridad at malasakit sa bawat isang konstituwente natin sa ating mga ahensya. But we do believe that the concerted effort of the different government agencies are now achieving for us and for the Filipino people a very dynamic results of our effort against red tape. Nakikita po natin na napakaraming mga bagay na nasusolusyonan na ngayon laban sa red tape na nung nakaraang maraming mga taon ay hindi po natin nagagawa ng solusyon. Ito po ay sa kadahilanan na ang atin pong approach ngayon is a whole of government approach. That each and every one of us are now contributing our own share in this battle against bureaucratic red tape. And as you go through this webinar, my ardent prayer and desire is that each and every one of us would be able to take this policy as our own. Even apply the automatic approval provisions of the law and remind our colleagues in government and in our respective agencies that public office is a public trust. And as we continue to serve the public, we are also serving the next generation of the Filipino people. And as we would always say, that the train of reform against red tape is now on the move. And whoever would stand against this train of reform by the people will simply be ran over. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.
Alright, that was Secretary Jeremiah B. Belica highlighting the importance of not having any backlogs and also ensuring that we are providing the best services to our people. So to further understand more what this memorandum circular is all about, the Undersecretary from the authority, the Deputy Director General for Operations, Undersecretary Ernesto V. Perez, provided us a video for everyone here who is with us on the Zoom call and to those who are with us on Facebook Live to understand more about the salient features of this memorandum circular. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the Deputy Director General will be giving us an idea on what this memo is all about.
Magandang araw po sa ating lahat. Good day to all our stakeholders present in this orientation. Nais ko pong magpasalamat sa inyong lahat for being present in this orientation on the salient features of the Anti-Red Tape Authority Memorandum Circular on the Zero Backlog Report and how government agencies and offices can be compliant with the Republic Act 11032 or the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Delivery of Government Services Law. ARTA issued the Memorandum Circular 2020-02 on March 7, 2020. Ito po ay inulit, nagkaroon tayo ng isang culminating activity last March 7, 2022 upang i-reiterate yung earlier circular that was issued in 2020. Ang basis po natin dito for this circular can be found in Section 2 of Republic Act 11032, which declares the state policy of promotion of integrity, accountability, proper management of public affairs and public property, as well as to establish effective practices with all the intention of providing efficient turnaround of the delivery of government services and the prevention of graft and corruption in government. Section 10 of Republic Act 11032 directs the automatic approval or automatic extension of license, clearance, permit, certification, or authorization. With this, the authority issued the Memorandum Circular 2020-02 establishing a 3-7-20 day, aligning it with the President's mandate to process government transactions without delay. Dahil po ito, sinabi ng ating Presidente nung kanyang first State of the Nation address, ayaw niya ng mahabang pila, ayaw niya na pinapahirapan ang taong bayan. Now, Section 4 of Rule 8 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations of Republic Act 11032 provides that after investigation and verification of the applicant's full submission of all the necessary documents and payment of all required fees, the authority shall issue a declaration of completeness and order the concerned office or agency to issue the approval, extension, and renewal of the license, clearance, permit, certification, or authorization deemed automatically approved or extended provided by Section 10 of this Act. Nais ko pong ilinawin, emphasize, ng Anti-Red Tape Authority, hindi po siya ang nag-issue ng order for automatic approval. Siya lang po ang nag-issue ng Certificate of Completeness as a basis for government agencies concerned to issue the automatic approval of an original application or automatic renewal if it is an application for extension. Okay? Malinaw po yun, no? So, in establishing the 3-7-20 day and in line with the President's mandate to process government transactions without delay and ensure the implementation of efficient delivery of government service, the authority issued ARTA Memorandum Circular 2020-02. With this, the authority reiterated the directive for all government offices and agencies to conduct an inventory of all its transactions into simple, complex, and highly technical as of this date. The pending transactions that went beyond the prescribed processing period of 3-7-20 based on the respective Citizens Charter shall be automatically approved or automatically extended in compliance with the provisions of Section 10 of Republic Act 11032 and the corresponding Section 4, Rule 8 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations. Therefore, all government agencies and offices are mandated to implement a Zero Backlog program pursuant to Section 1, Rule 6 of the IRR of Republic Act 11032 to address current and or future pending transactions. This program shall be a one-time submission to the authority unless said program will necessitate changes as deemed necessary. All government agencies and offices are to submit the template for inventory of licenses, permits, clearances, certifications, authorizations, clearances, tagged as a backlog before March 7 of each year. Hindi po kayo mahirapan dito dahil ang authority na mismo ang nagbigay ng templates, no, for compliance. All you have to do is just fill this up, no, and then provide for the coverage period, no, in the reporting of the inventory of all licenses, permits, certifications, authorizations, clearances, tagged as backlog from March 8 of the current year until March 6 of the following year. So therefore, for the year 2022, the submission will be made on or before April 29, 2022, which shall cover the period from March 2020 until March 6, 2022. If there are no pending transactions and zero backlog program is not needed, all government agencies and offices are still required to submit their zero backlog certification in compliance with the annual reporting. So, nais ko pong mag-apila sa lahat ng ating mga kasamahan sa gobyerno. We have all the legal basis for issuance of automatic approval para magkaroon po tayo ng compliance dito sa Zero Backlog Program. Hindi po ng Anti-Red Tape Authority, kundi ng batas, Republic Act 11032. Ang Anti-Red Tape Authority ay siyang ginagamit lang bilang ahensya under the Office of the President tasked to implement the law and all the implementing rules and regulations. So kami po sa Anti-Red Tape Authority ay masigasig na nag-aaplila sa lahat upang ma-implement itong magandang batas na ito na game changer na tinatawag natin, na which really requires a change in the mindset of people and government, na kapag ito po ay katuparan natin, na-implement natin to the full extent, magkakaroon po talaga ng very efficient government services. Can you imagine, lahat kayo, mga ahensya, lahat ng offices sa gobyerno ay wala kayong backlog, ibig sabihin wala kayong delay at wala kayong violation dun sa sinasabi ng batas na you have to process all pending applications into simple, complex, or highly technical, or within 3-7-20 period from the date of submission of all your requirements including the fees. Hindi mo ba nakakatuwa na nakakapagbigay tayo ng tamang serbisyo dahil ito ang ating sinumpaan nang tayo ay maluklok dito sa pwesto natin sa gobyernong ito. Hindi po ba tayo matutuwa kapag atin nalaman ng ating mga kasambayan, mga kapitbahay, kapwa Pilipino ay natutuwa sa ating ginagawa? Ginagawa na natin ang ating trabaho, natutuwa pa ang taong bayan. So nais ko pong mag-apila on behalf of our Secretary Jeremiah Belica, lahat ng mga opisyales, lahat ng staff ng Anti-Red Tape Authority. Sumama po kayo sa trend ng reforma. So lahat po ng ating submission ay dapat gawin po natin by electronic filing at this link provided on your screens. So ARTA Memorandum Circular has also been uploaded on our official website for easier reference. Should you have any further concerns, questions, please do not hesitate to contact the Compliance and Monitoring Evaluation Office of the Authority at compliance@arta.gov.ph. Zero Backlog 3720 at arta.gov.ph. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay po kayong lahat.
All right, that was Undersecretary Ernesto V. Perez explaining to everyone here on this Zoom call as well as in our Facebook Live the salient features of the ARTA Memorandum Circular. Now, I believe Yusek Perez has also shown to us the annexes to be used by LGUs and SUCs in compliance with the Zero Backlog Program, and to walk us through on how to use these annexes, may we call on the Division Chief of the Doing Business Division, Mr. Paul Erwin Pereño, to guide us on the implementation of the Zero Backlog Program and the use of the annexes. Sir Paul, you have the virtual floor na po. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nancy. Once again, good morning to all our stakeholders from LGUs and SUCs who are present with us in this orientation. And we would like to thank you for being here with us today. And my part is to discuss briefly the detailed guide on how to use the three annexes, as mentioned by our Undersecretary Ernesto V. Perez, which is attached to the recently signed ARTA Memorandum Circular 2022-0. And this was signed last March 7, 2022 as part of the culminating activity of the authority's 3720 event. Now we'll go directly to the first annex, Annex A. Next slide, please. Okay. You could see in your screen, Annex A, or the Zero Backlog Programs, as the title says. This is where the agencies, or where you will detail your agency-specific Zero Backlog Program. You will only submit this once, a one-time submission of the relevant information about your agency-specific Zero Backlog Program, unless there is an amendment in this annex that needs attention of the authority. So in this slide, you can see the sample agency that may have filled out this form. So in this annex, the department agencies, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, in this case, the Penro Nueva Vizcaya. The program title is the Project Zero Backlog. The program objective is to comply with the Section 10 of RA 11032 and ensure no complaints are being processed beyond the prescribed processing time. You can also see here the target output, so zero backlog from the Penro and Senro offices, and the date of implementation, April 19, 2020, and the implementing office is DNR Penro Nueva Vizcaya. So part also of this annex is the brief description of what the program is all about, as well as the purpose why this program was implemented. So Project Zero Backlog was implemented by the DNR Penro Nueva Vizcaya due to the increased number of applications received within the province. We also acknowledge that not all agencies have been able to implement their agency-specific Zero Backlog program. Hence, for as long as there have been activities initiated to address or to reduce the backlogs, then you may fill out the information that is applicable to your agency. So still under Annex A, for the next slide, please. You can see here the agency matrix of services and plan of action. Let's discuss this per column. So in the first column, you must indicate the office that issues the licenses, a clearance, permit, authorization, and sample is the regional office, licenses, patents, and deeds division, forest utilization section. In the second column is the type of service they are offering. So releasing of tree cutting permits. So the services should be identified based on your respective citizens charter. From there, you will be able to determine if each service, whether internal or external, business or non-business related, fits the definition of a license, application, certification, authorization, permit as defined by the IRR of RA 11032. So in the third column, the classification based on the Citizens Charter, is this a simple application, complex, or highly technical? The fourth column is the average number of application requests, licenses, or clearances received per day. For example, here is 10. And column 5 is the average number of application requests, licenses, permits, clearances processed within the prescribed time. And sixth column, the average number of application requests, licenses, permits, clearances issued within the prescribed time. So in a glance it seems that medyo pareha sila yung columns 5 and 6. Request the same data but it does not. The difference is that the agency or offices may process the applications and requests within the prescribed processing time. But the question here is, were you able to issue that requested document within the prescribed time? And that's what column 6 covers, the number of applications issued by the agency within the prescribed time. Again, for simple transaction or application, it should be processed and issued within 3 working days. Otherwise, if processed the following day, it could already be considered as backlog. Same with the complex and highly technical applications, requests, which should be processed and issued within 7 and 20 working days respectively. For column 7, it's intervening factors for the gap between the number of application, requests, licenses, permits, clearances that were processed within the prescribed processing time and those that were issued within the prescribed time. So the reason, you will cite here the reason why you have backlogs. So for example, here we have lack of manpower or unavailable signatories, etc. And the last column or the column 8 is the plan of action undertaken to resolve this gap. If column 7 is the intervening factors, column 8 is the intervention from the agency to address these gaps or the problems or the issue. For example, in column 7, the identified gap is the lack of manpower. For column 8, to address this, the agency will hire additional staff. It should be noted that there are agencies who have classified each service under only one classification. For example, the building permit, it's just a permit, but it has 3 classification. It is dependent on what structure and the kind or the type of structure that the applicant will build. Either this is does it belong under the simple structure, complex structure, and highly technical structure. So it is in the purview of the agency or office to ensure that all applications are accounted for and to note the average number of applications received per day, application processed within the prescribed processing time, and the applications that have issued the relevant document for each classification under that particular service. And once all relevant information are filled out, agencies would need to include notes on how the implementation of the program turned out within their agency, citing data if necessary. So, for this example, upon and this will be signed, of course, by the head of the agency. So let's now proceed to the next annex or the Annex B. Next slide, please. This is the inventory of licenses, permits, certifications, authorizations, clearances, tagged as backlog would be one of the annexes that agencies are mandated to submit every March 7. In this annex, agencies will only submit this if you have pending transactions or backlog that went beyond the processing time as defined by the agency citizens charter. So agencies here will identify the office or department that has backlog. Here, the name of the agency is DENR, and the name of office department which provides the service mentioned here is the regional office, Region 2. So the next is how it was classified, or the classification of the service, whether it's a simple, complex, highly technical. In the service, sample service here is the 3 cutting permit, and the classification is highly technical. The processing time indicated, since this is classified as highly technical, 20 working days. And the total number of received application for the covered period is 8. Total number of pending transaction for the covered period, there are 6 remaining application. So the remarks, only 2 applications were issued a permit within the 20 days prescribed processing time. So if you can see in the slide, for demand-based agencies, ensure to put the total number of requests and applications received in the past year. Then add a note for the authorities purview that the number indicated is the total application and not the average received in the past year. It should also be noted that the coverage period to be included is from March 8th of the current year until March 6th of the following year. So this is an annual submission that the authority required for all government agencies. For the year 2022, kailan ba yung deadline? So the submission will be made on or before April 29, 2022, which will cover the period from March 1, 2020 until March 6 of this year, 2022. So for the next slide, the last annex for the Annex C, this is the guidelines for the Zero Backlog certification. So ano po ito? Should the government agencies do not have any recorded pending transactions that went beyond the prescribed processing time, they have the liberty to issue Annex C, or the Zero Backlog certification. So in this annex, either the head of the agency or the ARTA focal person shall be the signatory in this document, certifying how their office, alongside their regional or city offices, have acted upon their applications within the prescribed processing time as indicated in their citizens charter. So this brings me to the end of my presentation, and hopefully, if you have questions, I think the next part of the program will be the open forum, but I hope that I provided you with a clear guidance on how to fill up this, the 3 annexes under the Zero Backlog program of the authority. Once again, good morning and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sir Paul, for that very informative and concise presentation of how to use the annexes included in this latest issuance. Now, at this juncture, we are proceeding to the open forum, and we are at the moment consolidating all questions that we are receiving both from here on the Zoom call as well as on the Facebook Live. Now, before we proceed to the open forum, we would like to remind everyone to limit your questions solely concerning the Zero Backlog program and the latest issuance of the authority. Should you have any further concerns in relation to this latest issuance, you may email us at zerobacklog3720@arta.gov.ph. Next slide, please. There we go. So as you're seeing on your screens, feel free to email us on zerobacklog3720@arta.gov.ph. So at this juncture, we are now proceeding to address all of your concerns in relation to the Zero Backlog program. May we call on Sir Paul Pereño. And Miss Ria Fernandez Obina, who will help me in moderating this conversation and concerning the Zero Backlog program. With us, also here with us would be the Undersecretary for Operations, DDG Ernesto V. Perez.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And welcome again to the orientation of the Anti-Red Tape Authority on the Zero Backlog program. So as what Ms. Nancy mentioned, we will be proceeding with the open forum in which we will be accommodating your questions. If you have questions that aim to clarify a certain portion of any of the discussions of our officials from the Deputy Director General for Operations Office. So with me in the open forum is the Undersecretary for Operations, USEC Ernesto V. Perez, and of course, the Doing Business Division Chief, Sir Paul Erwen Pareño. Anyway, let's start. We are receiving a number of questions from our participants here in Zoom, and I believe we also have questions coming from our live stream on ARTA Facebook page as well as on RTVN Facebook page. To begin our discussion, we have the first question coming from LGU Agdangan, Cheryl Q. Briones. Her question is, good morning po from LGU Agdangan. Kapag po ba walang backlog, gagawin pa rin po yung annexes, USECNES?
Pag walang backlog, nakalagay doon, meron tayong template, no? Annex C. Gagawa ng certification yung head of agency or office to certify that they have no backlog.
All right. Actually, this is also one of the questions raised yesterday during our ZBP webinar with NGAs and GOCCs. Yusek and Sir Paul, another question from LGU Cabanatuan City. Ang licenses, clearances, authorizations pagdating sa LGUs, ano-anong offices po sa LGU ang dapat mag-submit? Maybe, DC Paul, you can respond to this query.
Thank you, Ms. Ria. So, as I mentioned a while ago, based on the annex, the office that provides the service should be identified, and this will be consolidated by the one LGU for submission to the authority.
All right po. Thank you, DC Paul, for that response. Another question is from JRMSU. USECNES, good morning po. May we know if electric cooperatives are also subject to ARTA? Thank you very much, USECNES.
Yes, they're covered. All offices, agencies under the executive department are covered by the law. It's very clear under Section 3 and of the law and the implementing rules of Republic Act 1103.
Thank you so much, USECNES. Klaro po yun. No? By the way, aside from typing in your questions on the comment box, you may raise your hand so you can ask your question live. So just click on the raise hand button and we will acknowledge you right immediately. Another question, mula naman po ito sa social media, sa live streaming natin, from Rachel Pantig Evangelista. The question is, supposing that there is one application form with multiple requests for different documents, is it correct to assume that the processing days will be added for these documents? Example, one TOR for 7 days, one diploma for 7 days, one certification for 3 days, which will total to 17 days. USECNES?
Natanong din yan, no? The same question that was asked yesterday together with the Secretary. Yung period will start to run if all the documents have been submitted already. No? Either 3/7/20. Ngayon, pag hindi pa kompleto, siyempre mag-i-stop yung period na yon. So hindi pa magiging backlog yan on the part of government agency. Pero yung mga ganyang transaction kasi that is classified as a multi-stage transaction, hindi po yan automatic that the agency has all the discretion. No? They will have to seek clearance from the authority to classify the transaction into multi-stage para ma-determine po natin talaga ano yung standard processing time that is required for the application to be processed.
Thank you so much, Yusek Nes. At this point, it is my privilege to recognize Secretary Jeremiah Bellica to join our open forum sec. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ria, Yusek Nes, DC Paul, to all of our participants. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat.
All right, sir. Sige po. Okay, another question. This was dropped in our comment box here in Zoom. It comes from Isagani Visay. Good morning po. Ang submission po ba ng Zero Backlog Program Report ay office po ba ng LGU? DC Paul?
Come again, Ms. Ria.
Sir, the question of Mr. Isagani Visay is kung yung submission daw po ba ng Zero Backlog Program Report ay by the office ng LGU.
Yes, I think the LGU will consolidate, as I mentioned a while ago. Each services provided by the LGU i-submit nila ito for consolidation if they have pending backlogs or transactions or application, and the submission to us is through LGU.
All right po. I'm still reading some of the questions and I believe na sagot na natin yung iba dito po. Let us take this. Okay. Takit lang po ha. This one from LGU Borongan, Lorna B. Cabalia. Good morning. Does it mean that we will conduct inventory of all our LGU departments, then we let them submit backlog transactions if there is any? Secretary Bellica.
Okay, thank you for that question. Well, let me just lay the predicate, very important. The Zero Backlog Program is a program established under and required by Republic Act 11032, by which all government agencies, including its different organizations within, should really implement a Zero Backlog Program. Ang ginagawa lamang po ngayon ng Anti-Red Tape Authority through this issuance is monitoring the implementation of the program of each government agencies. So within each local government unit, in this particular example, should always remind all of their offices within their LGU to observe the 3/7/20 processing time and maintain a Zero Backlog Program. Kaya nga po, hindi lamang po natin dapat minomonitor ito once a year. But for all government agencies and local government units, we are encouraging that we make this as a regular staple at paalala sa atin. No? Dalian ho natin, gawin ho natin. And yun hong pagsasubmit po natin ng atin po mga report ay consolidated na po ito every once a year. Ano po? Pero we do encourage, especially the committees on anti-red tape of each local government units, which is also required for all government agencies and local government units to have. Sila ho dapat ang lagi nagpapaalala at nagme-maintain na ito. No po? Ang ating hinihingi lamang is on a yearly basis is that we have a checkpoint for all government agencies. At ito ho ang ginagawa naman ng Anti-Red Tape Authority. So the answer is yes, Ria. The LGU should be able to remind and also consolidate the reports.
All right, sir. Actually, there are related questions na pwedeng maging follow-up doon sa natanong kanina, sir, no? Ang tanong po kasi dito, sino raw po ba ang dapat na mag-consolidate sa lahat ng report? Is it their HRMO or CART?
Yeah, Yusek Ness, maybe.
I will answer that question. Yeah, it's a directive. We issued a directive, the Anti-Red Tape Authority, for all covered agencies to form their Committee on Anti-Red Tape. The motive or the intention there is to assist the agency in complying with the law. So that's why it's very important for all offices to have their Committee on Anti-Red Tape, because this will be the office responsible for compliance with the law, and even all the directives, issuances by the agency will be coursed through the Committee on Anti-Red Tape. So at the end of the day, it will be the primary office created by the covered agency to be responsible for the preparation of the report in compliance with the directive of the Anti-Red Tape Authority.
Sir,
But of course, I would like to remind everyone that Section 8 of Republic Act 11032 provides that the head of office or agency is primarily responsible for the implementation of the act and should be held accountable for the efficient delivery of government services. So at the end of the day, it still is the responsibility of the head of office or agency to comply with the law.
Go ahead,
May I just dovetail a little bit with the answer of our good Yusek? May I also request that all of our participants would always remind our principals, the head of the agencies, on what Yusek Perez just mentioned on Section 8 rather of the law. Hindi ho kasi simple ang siyang provisions na inilagay po ngayon dito sa batas na ito, dahil it makes primarily liable or responsible the head of the agencies in the implementation of the provisions of Republic Act 11032, as well as ensuring that applications and permits are acted upon timely within the prescribed processing time. What ARTA right now is doing in order also to para hindi naman ho maging mabigat masyado sa head ng mga agencies, ang mga permits at licenses na maaari ho sanang inaprubahan ng particular office within a particular agency will be primarily liable kung sakali hong lumagpas ang application at inupuan, lagpas po sa 3 days, 7 days, or 20 days. So for example, hindi ho si mayor ang siyang tatamaan kung ang siyang pumipirma po dapat is yung isa pong opisina na on his level pa lamang ay pwede naman niya sana na aksyonan. However, but let me just make it very clear, but the Zero Backlog program should be really be shepherded by the head of the agency. Kasi bandang huli po, ang siyang atin pong katuwang ng local chief executive dyan is yung kanya pong Committee on Anti-Red Tape. May option naman ho siya. Doon ho sa atin hong memorandum on the creation of the CART, pwede ho na ang head ho ng LGU ang pinuno ng CART, or anybody within the third highest ranking official doon po sa kanila pong opisina or sa kanila pong administrative hierarchy. So yan lamang po, no, isang paalala po sa atin, dahil baka ho tayo matanong ho din ng ating mga principals on this.
All right, thank you so much, Secretary Belgica. At this point, Miss Ann Nunez of DILG Mendez is raising her hand. Go ahead, Miss Nunez.
Hello po, magandang umaga. Hindi na po ako magbukas ng camera because medyo intermittent po yung signal ko. Again, I would like to first acknowledge po, nagpapasalamat po tayo kay Secretary Belgica, kay Yusek Binluan po sa pagbibigay po ng ganitong technical assistance to us. So, as a DILG officer po of Mendez Nunez in Cavite, actually po we have tried accomplishing na po ito pong ating Zero Backlog program. Sabi po kanina, earlier, we have a question na kung sakali pong walang backlog, ay pwede po bang yung annex na lamang ang i-submit, which was answered affirmatively. Sabi po ay yung Annex C na lamang, Zero Backlog Certification. But may I just raise po, when you pull up yun pong Google form that you have forwarded to our agencies for the submission of the papers, required po kasi yung Annex A, which is the Zero Backlog Program, before you proceed with the certification ng Annex C. So, would that mean po ba, kailangan po munang i-assist all services before going about the submission of the Annex C? Tama po ba?
I will clarify that. Thank you, Ria, because I was the one who answered that. And there's a one-time submission, no? Zero Backlog Program. So that is required really Annex A. Ang sinasabi ko kanina, once na nakapag-submit ka na ng one-time submission at halimbawa, na-complete mo na, wala kang backlog, then you, the head of agency shall issue a certificate of certification Annex C na wala ngang backlog. No? So dapat ganoon ang ating guidance po dyan.
Pam, do you have a follow-up question?
Okay, so tama po na ano muna, no? Annex A muna, and then kung walang backlog, mag-proceed po tayo sa Annex C. But kung may backlog, we will undergo Annex B. Tama po?
Tama po.
Ayan.
Tama.
Sir, in behalf of the LGUs ng ating pong buong Pilipinas, right now po kasi we are also complying with the RA 11292 with the Seal of Good Local Governance, which is undergoing its assessment from April to May. Sir, baka naman po maaari kaming makahirit pa ng kaunting extension, perhaps May po, para po mai-workshop namin ito with all the departments. Since all services po tayo, hindi naman po siya isang agency lamang, isang report lang yung gagawin natin. All services kasi yung gagawing assessment. Could that be a consideration perhaps for all the LGUs?
Secretary? Sir?
Yeah, thank you for that request. Sige po, we'll take that in consideration. We do understand, especially during it's also election season. But may we request from your office, Ma'am Nunez, if we could have a formal request on this so that we could deliberate on it. But thank you very much.
Yes.
We really appreciate your request.
Yes po, Secretary. Thank you so much for that consideration. We will do it po immediately po para maitaas na po sa inyo. Thank you so much po.
Thank you, ma'am, from DILG Mendez Nunez. Thank you so much. Again, aside from typing in your questions in the comment box or sa ating Facebook streaming, you may raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand button so we can acknowledge you. Or if we fail to accommodate your questions, you can email them doon sa email accounts na ipoprovide namin later on. Next question from PUP John Mark Nero. Good morning po. Pa-clear lang po yesterday when I attended the orientation. The covered period was March 8, 2021 to March 6, 2022. But today, ang nakalagay na po sa slide ay March 2020 to March 6, 2022, wherein the deadline is April 29, 2022. Also, if we will submit the Annex A, if ever we do not have backlogs, do we need to submit the Annex A or the Zero Backlog Program as one-time submission or no need na po? Thank you. DC Paul?
Oh, thank you, Ms. Ria. So for the submission for this year, since the start of the implementation of the Zero Backlog Policy was March 1, 2020, and we just reiterated through MC 2022-02, which was signed last March 7, 2022. So for this year, it shall cover the period of March 1, 2020 until March 2022. And the deadline for the submission of this backlog is on or before April 29, 2022. So, for the next question on the, ano ngayon, Ms. Ria? On the...
So, yung sa Annex C, if wala daw pong backlog, para bang mag-submit ng
It was already answered by Yusek Perez, Yusek Nes. Yeah, you already mentioned that you should submit your Zero Backlog Program, which is a one-time submission. So if you have no backlog, so you can indicate in the Annex B you have no backlog, and for the Annex C, the certification of no backlog, which will be signed by the head of the agency. It's required for those agencies who have no backlog.
Okay, but just to reiterate, no, I think marami rin kasing similar questions. So the default is Annex A muna. Tapos kapag wala pong backlog, mag-a-Annex C. Pero kung may backlog, mag-a-Annex B. So I hope it's clear for everyone. Again, Annex A first, then if you don't have a backlog, go to Annex C. If you have backlog, go to Annex C. Right? Okay. Next question. Since we were mentioning CART earlier, it comes from Sir Isagani Bisay again. Is there a need for the issuance of executive order creating the committee for ARTA or the CART? Secretary Belica?
Yeah, that is actually better if a executive order would be issued, since it would be more the goal here is permanence, no? For the creation of these offices. So we do encourage the mayor immediately after this. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was December 2020 or 2021 rather. Yuseknes, no? It's 2021 December was the date in which the submissions for the creation of the CART was required. So yes, malaki hong bagay kung iupo ang ating hong ilalabas.
Thank you so much, Secretary Belica. I see Miss Maris of FASU or FASU DASMA raising her hand. Go ahead, ma'am. Miss Maris? You have the floor now, ma'am. Anyway, well, she's trying to connect. Let's proceed with the province of South Cotabato. Go ahead, you may open your microphone po. Turn on your microphone. Province of
Hello po. Good morning. Opo, yung sa ano po natin, ma'am, yung sa ARTA Memorandum Circular and the submission of Zero Backlog Policy. Yung naka-include lang po kasi doon na standard na processing time is 3, 7, and 20 days. May I be clarified po kasi under RA 11032 and its implementing rules and regulations, we have identified two more standard processing time. 40 days for highly technical transaction, which involve applications or requests that involve activities such as but not limited to research, field trials, scientific methodology, and intergovernment actions. And we have also another 45 days for approval of the SB and the SP on applications or requests for license, clearance, permit, certification, or authorization. May I be clarified po kasi under the local government po na setup, we have the executive department and the legislative department. We have no problem with the executive department because we have classified our transaction into simple, complex, and highly technical. My concern po kasi part of our preparation ng report is included yung sa sangguniang panlalawigan. May I know po kung included po sila doon sa Zero Backlog report na isasubmit po namin. Kasi for now, we are working on our compliance. And we have required our secretary to the sanggunian to prepare a report if there are pending transactions. However, our standard processing time for SP and SB is 45 working days for highly technical transaction. Lang, yun po ang concern namin.
Yeah.
Secretary.
Yeah. Thank you. Ria, may I answer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that question. The answer is yes. And we thank your local government unit for proactively requiring or requesting the sanggunian to submit reports on this because yes, there are two entities, which is the executive, which is directly under the mayor, or the local chief executive, and also the sanggunian. However, they belong to the same public corporation, which is the local government unit. So yes, we do appreciate that you are consolidating the report, but at the same time, on the questions on the prescribed processing time of 45 days and 30 days, kasama po yun kasi backlog po yan kapag lumalagpas po sila doon. Another question that was raised yesterday during our open forum or in question and answer with the different national government agencies that there are some NGAs with charters that provides for a longer processing time on specific transactions. So one example is PhilHealth, which provides 60 days for them to process a reimbursement. So the rule there is they have to follow what is in their special law, no? And pero ulitin ho natin, pag lumagpas po sila dun sa period po nila, then it becomes a backlog and it becomes an artable matter. If I may use the word artable, no? It becomes a concern of red tape because what is actually important that this new law in ARTA is really monitoring is that all applications and all transactions in government should have a period by which people could reasonably expect government action. Ang hindi ho kasi pwede talaga ay isa pong transaksyon na hindi ho natin alam until kailan ho matatapos. Lagi ho namin sinasabi nila Yusek Perez, mas mabuti ang aplikasyon po na na-deny kaysa sa aplikasyon na inupuan. Kasi yung na-deny po, maaari mag-reapply, maaari mag-apila, pero yung hindi ho na-actionan kasi wala hong period na sinusunod, yun ho ang mahirap. So that is, I think, one of the more important takeaways that we should always have when talking about the Republic Act 11032. Whether 3720 po yan or sangguniang panglunsod, panlalawigan, which is 45 days, or otherwise, ano po, lahat po yan ay meron ho dapat sinusunod na prescribed processing time. Which also should be reflected in your citizens charter, if that is.
Secretary, thank you po. God bless
Alright,
you.
ma'am. Do you still have one? You're given still a time, ma'am, for one last question, or are you okay with your time, ma'am? Province of South Cotabato.
I'm good po. Thank you.
Alright. Thank you so much. Let's go back to Miss Maris of FASU or FASU DASMA. Ma'am?
Magandang umaga po. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if my concern was already answered, but nevertheless, I'd like to again ask. One, when it's ARTA po, when it's ARTA concern, what is really the office that should take care? For example, in the city government, ano pong opisina kaya? Sino pong opisina talaga may hawak ng ARTA concerns po?
Yeah,
Does it vary po? Apo?
Thank you, ma'am. We'll ask again our USEC just to maybe make it clear and reiterate what he has discussed a while ago. USEC Nes?
Pag dito po sa concerns dito sa compliance, naka-post at the end of the presentation, can I request the Secretary to please repost sa screen share yung compliance? And then pag ibang concern like complaints, ano naman yon? Sa complaints naman sa legal department natin. Pero pag it involves regulations, no, compliance with the requirements halimbawa ng regulatory impact assessment, meron din corresponding yan po under yan sa operations group. Kasi ang mandato ng ARTA ay two-pronged, no? Yung enabling and capacitating side, which is under the operations group. May dalawang opisina, ito yung Better Regulations Office at yung Compliance Monitoring and Evaluation Office. No? Pagdating naman sa mga reklamo, complaint na against violation, Section 21 of the law, yun naman po ay under sa legal department. I-email nyo lang at complaints@arta.gov.ph. Pero for purposes of this compliance sa ating Zero Backlog, nasa presentation po natin sa link. No? Yan, pa-share na lang, Secretariat, para reminder to everyone here how to comply, where to file, yan. So, should you have any questions or concern, please feel free to email it to your Compliance and Monitoring Evaluation Office. Zero Backlog 3720.
USEC Nes, I'm sorry, Ria and USEC Nes. I don't know if I got it right, but maybe the good lady, our friend from Dasma is asking, sino yata ang kailangan mag-submit from the LGU? Tama po ba, ma'am, ang aking intindi sa inyong pong question?
Thank you, Secretary. But actually, tama po yun din yung, that would be my second question. But my first question is, in the city government po, sino ang opisina po na dapat nagte-take charge when it's ARTA concerns? I mean, at least siya po yung opisina na in charge. Lahat po ng issuances ng ARTA, sa kanya dapat bumaba at sa kanya siya din po ang magbababa sa city government, for example.
Sige po, ma'am, well, again, ask si Yusek Perez to elaborate on his answer earlier. Yeah, Yusek Perez.
Ma'am, natanong niya kanina, but for emphasis, sasagutin po natin uli. Meron pong directive ang Anti-Red Tape Authority na in compliance with the implementing rules and regulations for all covered agencies to create or establish the Committee on Anti-Red Tape. For all offices, mandatory po yan, dapat compliant tayo. No? Para lahat ng mga issuances ng ARTA will be cascaded or directed to the Committee on Anti-Red Tape. Pati din po yung comply nyo naman ng particular agency office is also being done or coursed through the Committee on Anti-Red Tape. Pero kagaya po kanina is naming emphasize na even with if the responsibility of complying is with the Committee on Anti-Red Tape, Section 8 po of Republic Act 11032 specifically provides that the head of office or agency shall be primarily responsible for the implementation of the act and primarily accountable for the rendering of fast and efficient services to the people. Ang Zero Backlog program po natin ay to comply with the requirement ng batas na dapat tayo, government agencies should render fast, efficient services to the people. Ito pong Zero Backlog program natin is just an to aid covered offices or agencies to comply with this directive. Yun po, sana malinaw po kung aking sagot sa tanungan.
May I also just add a little my 2 cents. Also, ARTA, when we write, it is normally directed to the head of the office or head of the agency or the local chief executive. But nonetheless, we do believe and do expect that these communications would really be cascaded through the committees on anti-red tape. Ngayon, kung meron na ho kayong na-create at naisumiti po sa amin na inyo pong mga committees on anti-red tape, na ibigay nyo po yung inyong executive order that created it, then we would be coordinating with the committees. But there are still a number of local government units who are yet to create their committees on anti-red tape. So isa hong mahabang usapan ho yan, iba hong webinar po ang atin pong ano dyan. Pero if you would be needing materials and even guidance, please do tell, and we will be more than willing to assist po sa inyo sa creation po ng inyong committees na ito.
Thank you, Secretary. We actually have created one for DASMA, and perhaps yun na lang po siguro ulit orientation ng task ng committee.
Opo. Marami pong salamat. Congratulations.
Salamat po.
Congratulations.
God bless you.
Thank you, Ma'am, from Dasmariñas, Cavite. Now, let's take some questions from our chat box and social media live stream. It's actually 2 questions that are interrelated. Number 1 comes from OMP DC LGU Manolo Fortich. Good morning po. Mako-consider po bang backlog yung isang transaction kung hindi pa nakakabayad ng client of their prescribed fee based sa assessment na ibinigay? Maybe we can answer first the first question. DC po? Or Sec, go ahead, Sec.
Ria, ako na muna siguro. This is very important for us to emphasize. Okay, Section 10 of the ARTA law or the EOD law provides for automatic approval for applications which remains to be enacted despite being complete in its submissions and fully paid for Ibig sabihin, bayad na po, kumpleto na po ang mga requirements, at ito ay dapat nasasaad sa inyong Citizens Charter. Pag hindi ho ito na-actionan sa loob ng 3 araw, 7 araw, or 20 araw, depende po sa inyo pong classification ng transaction na yan, yan po ay automatically approved by operation of law. Now, if the application is fully submitted already, all of the requirements have been fully submitted, but remains to be unpaid. Now, the automatic approval cannot be had. Hindi ho pwede maitulak kasi hindi pa ho bayad. So, bali, tandaan ho natin, wag naman ho sana na ang maging dahilan kung bakit hindi ho makabayad yung aplikante is kasi hindi naman ho nire-release ng government agency yung order of payment. May mga pagkakataon ho kaming nakita na ang dinadahilan ay hindi pa raw tumatakbo yung 3720 day kasi hindi pa raw ho nila nababayaran. Yun ho para sa automatic approval. Pero kung inaabot ho ng siyam-siyam at inabot po ng 1 buwan, 2 buwan, para mag-issue lamang ng order of payment, then that would make the government agency liable. Because that in itself is should actually be made or acted upon with dispatch. Ngayon, kung ang nangyari po ay binigyan niyo po ng order of payment, ng assessment, at hindi ho bumabalik sa inyo yung aplikante at hindi ho nagbabayad, then you are not really obliged to automatically approve this application because you have already done everything that you can on your part. So, kung hindi ho sila nagbabayad, despite ho na nag-submit po sila, at hindi naman ho kagagawa ng LGU kung bakit hindi sila makabayad, ay hindi ho yan na mako-consider na kumpleto na ang kanila pong ginagawa. No? Pero kung yung order of payment po ay yun ang nagdahilan kung bakit hindi ho sila makabayad, ay maaari pong maging ground po yan for violation of Section 21 of RA 11032. So, sorry Aria. So kung hindi ho sila nagbabayad, kahit meron na ho kayong assessment, hindi ho backlog yan. Kasi pero we do encourage that you would still report this and just pwede ho ninyong banggitin ang reasons for that. Ano po?
Okay. That's clear coming from the Secretary. Secretary, paano daw po kapag na-pending si client sa payment section ng Electronic Business Permit Licensing System? Can we still consider this as backlog on the part of LGU? The question comes from Mark Luel Armada Avellano. Check.
The question, Ria, is they were held up where? In the electronic
sa payment section ng Electronic Business Permit Licensing System. Magiging parte pa rin daw po ba yun ng backlog ng LGU?
Well, babalik ako dun sa aking in-explain kanina, no? Kung yung payment section na yon kaya ka naipit kasi hindi ka binibigyan ng order of payment, kasalanan ho yan ng LGU. Pero kung naipit ka doon kasi hindi ka makapagbayad despite na meron ka ng assessment, then that would be due to the applicant and it should not be taken against the local government unit.
Okay. Sir, marami rin tayong mga natanggap na similar questions during our webinar yesterday. The question comes from Irma Espinosa Melchor, LGU Cagayan de Oro City Civil Registry Office. Good morning. If filed petitions for corrections under RA 9048 and RA 10172 will still be affirmed by PSA Manila, will that be recorded as backlog? As from experience, processing in PSA Manila takes time, especially as it will still include mailing period. So it involves other agencies po.
Yeah, we answered this. The same question was raised yesterday, and I think it was also alluded to by Yusek Perez earlier. If a particular transaction would need an action by another agency, which is similar dun sa sinasabi po nila, tumitigil po ang oras po sa inyo kasi hindi naman ho ninyo responsibility. But the problem now lang ho dito is on the streamlining of the services of the two agencies. We do encourage government agencies already to to make use of more innovative and more technologically advanced way of how we could, facilitate exchange of data. Sometimes the use of snail mail would be resorted to because of some, provisions of the law na sinasabi dapat mail, etc. So ito po ay amin pong tinutulungan rin ng mga ahensya para magkaroon ho ng electronic platform at magtulungan ho paano ho ito mas mapapabilis ang exchange po ng mga documents. But for reporting purposes, we recommend that if an application is pending before you and it was submitted to another agency for their action, like the PSA Manila, as you've mentioned, pwede ho natin banggitin, no? Sabihin ho natin yan sa inyong report that these applications are with me, with us, but the reason is we are still awaiting for the action of the Manila office of PSA, because we also expect the other office on the other end, no, in your case PSA, also to submit to us and declare the same. So para makikita po natin yan, no po, and we would be able to know how to be able to address and to assist, no, ang mga nangyayari po on the ground.
Thank you so much. Next question will be for you, Sec Perez. It comes from Cesar Ating DILG La Trinidad, Yusek. How about barangay level po? Same case with executive and legislative, and what if they were not issued with COC po? Yusek?
Ulit nga, Ria.
Sir, yes, the next question comes from Cesar Ating DILG La Trinidad. His question is, how about barangay level po? Same case with executive and legislative, and what if they were not yet issued with COC po? Yusek?
Oo. Covered po ang barangay, di ba? So, it's a responsibility ng barangay head to comply. So kung wala pa kayong na-create, it's about time siguro you remind the barangay head to form one, kasi mandatory po ito sa ating batas. At pag kayo po ay pina-explain, baka hindi nyo ma-explain, and you'll be held accountable.
Sir, another is from PUP Flor de Lisa Alvendia. Yusek, in the case of SUCs with branches and campuses, kasama po ba ang branches and campuses sa report, or it's just the main campus? Thank you.
Depende sa state university, no? But usually the practice is the main campus consolidate. Kaya nga may committee on anti-red tape dapat, and that is created at the central office. So it's a responsibility. Parang din yan sa LGU, you consolidate and then you make just one report para it will cover also the branches. Kasi mahirap nga naman yun. Halimbawa, may mga state university colleges na napakaraming branches, no? At still added work sa kanila yan. So it really depends on the head of, yung presidente ng state university to either authorize the branch to submit a separate report. But I think the practice is that the university consolidates all the reports.
Thank you so much, Yusek Perez. I guess that's the end of our open forum. Before we close this, may I request last message from, let's start with DC Paul, the head of the Doing Business Division of ARTA. DC Paul, any reminders or anything?
Again, good morning, everyone. I would just like to remind each and everyone for the submission of your annexes on Zero Backlog Policy on or before April 29, 2022. But as mentioned by our good secretary, if you want to extend the period, we would like to request from your office a formal letter requesting for the extension of the submission of the required annexes from your respective office. So again, good morning, and let's continue to work as one whole of government approach in order to eliminate backlogs in our respective offices.
Thank you so much, the Division Chief of the Doing Business Division of ARTA, Sir Paul Erwin Pareño. Undersecretary Ernesto Perez, the Deputy Director General for Operations. Sir, any words?
Thank you, Ria. Maaring iba sa inyo nagtataka kung bakit despite the election fever, ang Anti-Red Tape Authority ay tuloy-tuloy pa rin sa pagpupush ng mga initiative na ito kagaya ng Zero Backlog Program. Kasi po hindi po tayo nagta-transition dito sa Anti-Red Tape Authority at hindi po tayo titigil hanggat sa mapalitan po kami, tuloy-tuloy po at in fact ang ano dito ay fast tracking of all the programs and initiatives. Itong Zero Backlog program is actually to aid, no? Tulungan kayo na mag-comply sa requirement na particularly Section 21. Kasi pag may mga pending applications sa request kayo na hindi niyo ito na-actionan, Section 21 holds you liable. So ang ginawa nito ng Anti-Red Tape Authority through the dito po sa Doing Business Division, no, dito sa Operations Group, ay tulungan kayo na mag-comply. Kaya pinamadali natin, meron tayong templates. So wala po tayong dahilan kung bakit hindi tayo makapag-comply. Ngayon, kung dapat lahat, ano po to one-time submission. Ngayon, kung wala naman kayong backlog, hindi mag-certify lang kayo. Ngayon, kung merong backlog, i-declare lang ninyo para hindi kayo makasuhan. Kami dito sa Better Regulations sa Operations Group, ang aming mandato to enable and capacitate. Pero pag may reklamo, may violation, i-refer na po ito sa legal natin. So magtulungan po tayo at isa po itong napakagandang programa para mapabilis ang serbisyo natin sa taong bayan. At kung meron pa kayong mga katanungan at hindi namin naisagot, huwag po kayong mag-atubili. Don't hesitate to email us of any concerns and certainly we will help you, assist you, comply with this requirement. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Yusek Perez. And last but definitely not the least, the Director General of ARTA, Secretary Jeremiah Benica, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ria. Thank you, Yusek Nes. PC Paul. Maraming salamat po muli sa bawat isa sa atin for gracing this very important briefing. You know, I do believe that everyone who comes to work always wants to do a good job. And it is the leader's role for us to help the people or our constituents achieve the good job or the good work that they all desire to accomplish for themselves. Wala ho ni isa sa atin ang gustong pumasok sa ating trabaho, gawin ang ating mga trabaho and mag-fail at maging kahihiyan. Bagkus gusto ho natin na lahat tayo ay very good, lahat po tayo ay maging excellent sa ating mga ginagawa. And that is the starting presumption by which ARTA is moving towards. We do recognize that there are many challenges that confronts us with the pandemic, with the many applications and the increasing jurisdiction, as well as the different government offices, both national and then local government, local offices. At ito po ay nagiging layered at nagiging difficult po sa atin. But nonetheless, we do recognize that each and every one of us wants to provide the most convenient, the most effective, and most efficient na trabaho po at paglilingkod sa ating taong bayan. Meron lamang po sigurong ilan na masasabihin ho natin na nananadya, pero karamihan po sa atin, kung hindi man naman po halos lahat sa atin, ay gusto ho natin gawin ang trabaho natin na maayos. Yun ho ang aming misyon. Yun ho ang namin gusto hong gawin. Dahil ho pinangako ho at sinabi ho ng ating Pangulo sa kanya hong simula ng kanyang administrasyon, ng kanyang pong termino, that he wants to give a convenient and comfortable life for every Filipino. And this is not just a promise that was given at the beginning and at the start of his term, but this is a promise that we need to keep as a public servants. So, sa bawat isa po sa atin, ito pong Zero Backlog Program, ang amin pong dalangin at amin pong naisin dito po sa ARTA ay hindi lamang po maging for compliance sa bawat isa po sa atin, but it will be a continuous challenge and reminder for each and every one of us every year, not only during March 7, but all throughout the year, that we need to do something about the applications, the grievances, and the needs of the people. Hanggat meron ho tayong magagawa, gawin po natin. hanggat meron ho tayong pwedeng gawin, pagsumikapan po natin and let us come up with constructive, creative, effective, and compassionate ways on how to really reach out dun sa mga taong bayan. And again, salamat po sa inyong lahat at amin hong dalangin that everybody will continue to be safe and healthy during this transitory period po natin as we now approach the new normal. Thank you, Ria, and congratulations to everyone who organized this event today.
Very well said, Secretary Belica, the Director General of ARTA. We hope that we at the Anti-Red Tape Authority are able to help our fellow civil servants. In fact, we are receiving a lot of kind words in the comment box. Napakarami po. But let me share just a few of them. One is, congratulations po ARTA team. Let us continue to better serve our stakeholders by easing our business processes. Another one is to the ARTA team, salamat po. You are doing a good job. Patuloy po tayong samahan ng Panginoon sa ating layuning maisagawa ang pinakamabuti sa ngalan ng serbisyo sa ating kapwa para sa kapurihan ng ating Diyos. As what our officials mentioned, we are here to help, not to point out the faults that you have in your respective agencies. No, tulong-tulong po tayo. Let's work as one. So thank you so much again to all our officials, Secretary Belica, Yusek Perez, and DC Paul. Now we head on, of course, to the formal closing of this orientation, and I revert the virtual floor to Undersecretary Ernesto V. Perez. Sir?
Thank you, Ria. Akala ko yun na yung closing natin.
Yes, sir. Just to formally wrap up the whole orientation.
Okay. Maraming salamat po sa lahat na dumalo dito. Isa pong karangalan, hindi po obligasyon, hindi po trabaho sa ARTA ang mag-conduct na orientation na ito. Ito po ay aming privilege, honor na makapag-share sa inyo ng sabi nga ito, yung ease of doing business law is a change maker law, which requires a change in the mindset of people and government. And ARTA is often called the disruptor in government services, na ang mandato po talaga natin, hindi lang ng ARTA, kundi ng bawat ahensya ng gobyerno ay to render efficient delivery of government services. Kasi ito po ayon sa ating Pangulo in his first State of the Nation address on July 26, 2016, when he said competitiveness and ease of doing business reforms will be mandatory. Ayaw po niya na pinapahirapan ng taong bayan, ayaw niya na mahaba ang pila. Kaya ang Anti-Red Tape Authority po sangayon sa kanyang mandato, particularly Section 10 on automatic approval of pending applications and transactions, para wala po tayong problema, hindi tayo makasuhan for delay, for failure to observe the processing of transactions within the standard processing time. Ito pong Zero Backlog Program ng Anti-Red Tape Authority ay isa pong programa na matulungan kayo to comply with the requirement. And at the same time, makakomply tayo sa ating mandato na mag-render ng efficient government services because this is what the people expect from us. Tayo po nandito sa ating pwesto as public servants, and we took our oath to obey the Constitution, follow the laws of the land. Mandato po ng Republic Act 11032. To render for each and every one of us here in government service, to render fast and efficient services to the people. At ito po, kasama ito, very basic. Pag merong pending application or request, dapat po we process it within the standard processing time. Hindi necessary to approve it, just to act on it, either to approve or disapprove. Kasi ang consequence nito, if you fail to process it within the standard processing time and the fees have been paid, sang-ayon po sa Section 4 Section 4 Rule 8, subject na po ito sa automatic approval as required under Section 10 of Republic Act 1103. So wag na po natin paabutin ito. Wag na tayong paabutin na may magreklamo sa atin. Mag-comply tayo sa Zero Backlog Program, makakasigurado kayo na hindi kayo makakasuhan, hindi kayo makakatanggap kasi nag-comply po tayo sa basic requirement ng ating batas. Ang Anti-Red Tape Authority ay inyong kasama dito, partner nyo. Magtulungan po tayo. We are always open. Any concern at all, you can email us, write us, and definitely we will respond to it because we are one in government. And we join the President, we join Secretary Belica in thanking each and every one of you. And may you remain committed to render fast and efficient services to the Filipino people. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Yusek Perez. And bago tayo umalis dito sa Zoom, picture taking po muna tayo. Ms. Nancy Fernandez will facilitate the photo opportunity. Ms. Nancy.
All right, well, thank you so much, Ms. Ria. We have 12 pages po dito. So let us keep our beautiful smiles for a long while. All right po.
Nancy, huwag ka na magbilang ha. Picture na lang.
Sandalan,
Sige, Sec, per your instruction. Tuloy-tuloy po ito. All right po. This will be, I will start po taking a pictures na po. 1, 2, 3.
Abidyo.
Alright po, this may take a while lang po. Right po, malapit na po tayo. Alright, last 3 pages na po. Lapit-lapit na po tayo. Alright, we are done na po. Thank you very much po for attending.
God bless.
Thank
this
you,
orientation
everyone.
po.
God bless everyone. Thank you.
ARTA team. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Kabilis na takbo ng ating mundo. Pakunat ng buto, humango na tayo sa bulok ng sistema. Walang asenso, huwag ka nang makubad na sa'yo ang pagbabago. Limutin na masasamang halimbawa, diskateng panis, itapon na. Magservisyo ng tama, huwag masilaw sa pera sa gobyerno. Dapat buo ang ating tiwala. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Trabaho at papeles, huwag nang ipabukas. Wakasan ng rete patlagayan, sundin ang batas, bilisan ng kilos, kakanda ang bukas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Kabilis ng takbo ng ating mundo, makunat ng buto. Humango na tayo sa bulok ng sistema, walang asenso. Huwag ka nang makupat na sa'yo ang pagbabago. Limutin mo na masasamang halimbawa. Diskarte panis, itapon na. Magserbisyo ng tama, huwag masilaw sa pera sa gobyerno. Dapat buo ang ating hiwala. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Trabaho at papeles, huwag nang ipabukas. Wakasan ng red tape at kagayan. Sundin ang batas, bilisan ng kilos. Kaganda ang bukas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Sama-sama tayo ay aahon. Dumating na ang tamang panahon. Matamis na bunga sa mabilis na aksyon. May buwelo na, huwag sayangin ang pagkakataon. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Trabaho at papeles, huwag nang ipabukas. Wakasan ng red tape at lagayan. Sundin ang batas, bilisan ng kilos. Kaganda ang bukas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas Pilipinas, paspas.
Smarter initiatives, better Philippines.